The situation in Southern California is shaping up to be that region and maybe that state's Hurricane Katrina. Let me explain. We are now in day 6 of raging wildfires. Now, several of these fires around Los Angeles have been contained, but several others are 11% contained, 27% contained, which means they're not entirely contained. There have been 12,000 structures destroyed. There have been 24 lives lost. And my guess is, unfortunately, those numbers will go higher, especially because the conditions, high winds, and continued dry situation on the ground, is going to lead to what they think is a potentially really bad day on Monday, January 13th. So, you may not remember, and if you don't, I'll remind you, Hurricane Katrina was 20 years ago. So this was a hurricane that went into New Orleans, and really the damage wasn't the wind, it was the flooding. And it did vast amounts of damage. It left absolute devastation in its wake, both from a human perspective, but also, and because these things are inherently political, from a political perspective as well. If you remember, there are a couple really bad moments for George W. Bush during Hurricane Katrina. One is where he's kind of looking down from the plane at the devastation. The other is when he says, "heck of a job, Brownie," to Michael Brown, his at the time FEMA director, about the job he was doing when it was not, in fact, a heck of a job. It will be a stain on Bush's legacy. It will be in his political obituary very prominently about the mishandling of what happened in New Orleans 20 years ago. Kathleen Blanco was the governor, Democratic governor of the state of Louisiana at the time. She was widely seen as having botched the handling of it. She was a one-term governor for a very clear reason. It was because of Katrina. That is her legacy. She passed away a few years ago. That is how people remember her and sort of what she did in the state. Ray Nagin was the mayor of New Orleans. Now, he wound up winning re-election, somewhat amazingly, but he wound up winning re-election after Katrina, but he then was convicted in 2014 and is just finishing a 10-year jail sentence. So things didn't work out like great for Ray Nagin either. My point here is that when you have a moment like is happening in California, in Southern California right now. So when you have a moment where the eyes of the city, the state, and the country, and even the world really, are on you, your area, that is a moment where political careers are made or they are broken. You can do all sorts of things before and after, but the truth is when the eyeballs are on you, when the lights are the brightest, that is how you will be defined. We are already seeing some of this. So Karen Bass, the former member of Congress who is now the mayor of Los Angeles, she was in Ghana on an official trip. She left before the fire started in earnest, although there were some clear signs that it was a potential fire problem when she left. She returned back amid the blaze, quite literally, and she's really struggled since then. She's trying to say she's casting blame everywhere, right? So there were rumors that she wanted to fire the LA police chief. She's trying to find someone to blame for why this is as bad as it is. And she's still trying to get back on her feet from being in Africa when this was all starting. Gavin Newsom. Now, this is probably the most interesting one. Gavin Newsom is the governor of California. He is term limited out of that job in 2026. Prior to this, I think everyone, including Gavin Newsom, would have told you privately he was running for president, running for the Democratic nomination. He had been one of the most active Democrats post-election, talking about Trump, talking about the need to fill the vacuum of leadership. And this will now consume his time. So if you'll notice, Gavin Newsom is not spending a whole lot of time around Karen Bass because I think he thinks Karen Bass is politically toxic at the moment. So I think Gavin Newsom's fate's a little bit more up in there. Karen Bass has got a hole she needs to dig out of politically. But what I would say is that this is not, like Katrina, this is not going to go away next week. Let's say the fires get put out, hopefully very soon. The amount of damage, the lives lost, the insurance claims, the damage to the culture in Southern California, the calls to rebuild, all that stuff is going to continue on and on and on and on. And I think will occupy very likely the last 2 years of Gavin Newsom's term, certainly this year of Gavin Newsom's term. And I think how he performs will be really, really important to whether he has a national political future or not. I think we spend so much time talking about, is he going to Iowa? Is he going to New Hampshire? Look, if you don't do your job in a state in a moment of crisis, and after that moment of crisis, there is no political future for you. This is where leaders are made or broken. This is where political careers are made or broken. And I think Gavin Newsom realizes that. He's not an idiot. I think he realizes that. The question is, what does the after action report wind up meaning for him? Does it look like he was to blame? Did he make decisions that led to things getting worse? Or was this just, something that couldn't have been stopped? They did the best that they could in the time that they could. And then he is really, really involved in raising money and putting together an organization for a cleanup operation, right? This could be a politically totally fine and maybe even a sort of a political a positive political story for Gavin Newsom in the long run, but he cannot focus. First of all, he can't get distracted by Donald Trump attacking him. That does no good. For the people in Southern California, they don't really care that Donald Trump is blaming Gavin Newsom right now or that Gavin Newsom is saying, let's keep politics out of it. He has to stay focused on what is happening in that area, how he can help, how he can bring state resources to it, and how in the wake of these fires, which is probably even more important, how he can help rebuild and help people help people put their lives back together. That's the key. And to me, again, this is a moment of testing for these politicians. Bass has already been found wanting at some level. We'll see if she can sort of make it politically. Newsom, I think, more up in the air, but absolutely this is going to be a critical thing for him. And the other thing I'll note is, remember, this is an open governor's race in 2026. Kamala Harris is mentioned as a possible candidate. Does she get involved? Does she sort of weigh in and try to help in ways that make her look gubernatorial, leaderly, right? Is this a place that she decides to sort of step in? Remember, in crisis is where people judge politicians. It is just a fact. We look to the government to see, are they helping? Are they hurting? Are they on top of it? Are they dropping the ball? And this is absolutely a moment. I think 20 years on from Katrina, we'll see did the politicians learn the lessons from Katrina, where you had multiple political careers either destroyed or badly tarnished because of the lack of readiness, preparedness, and seriousness with which they took that tragedy. Will we see that repeated in California, or will we see, I hope, a better outcome for the people there and for the politicians there? Anyway, we'll see, but an absolutely gigantic story that's not going away anytime soon. As always, I ask you to do 4 things. I ask you to subscribe to my channel. That's easy. Listen to the thumb. I ask you to like this video in particular. Do it for the algorithm. I ask you to comment because it's good for the algorithm. We need to get more people seeing my stuff, people. Let's do it. And number 4, tell 10 of your friends. Close friends, not that close friends. Just tell 10 of your people you know. Tell 10 people you see in Starbucks about this channel and what I'm doing. Thank you all. I will be back in D.C. I'm in Florida today. I'll be back in D.C. tomorrow. Everybody take care.